my friends. Welcome to Dear Che. This is a new portion of Let's Talk with Coach Che. And I, for the longest time, have received text, DMs, or messages on Facebook from listeners who had thoughts or questions. And so I thought, why don't we create a Dear Che section? So today is the day. I'd like to share some letters with you. And of course, never share who the people are. I use names that are not true. And I am not a doctor. I do not claim to be a doctor. None of what I give you or share with you is medical advice. It's more observations, questions, and mindful, reflective discussions about how we can care for one another and how we can care for one another in very complex times. Today I want to address a powerful letter I received from a woman, let's call her Lisa. Her story touches on so many aspects of midlife that I know will resonate with many of you. Lisa, thank you for your bravery and for your authenticity in sharing your struggle. And I'm sorry that you're struggling, and I'm really sorry that you feel so alone as you go through what is something that most women go through, if not all women, in some shape, way, or form. And I think it's one of the reasons why, especially as we get older, we need a village of people. You know, there's this saying, and I think it was Hillary Clinton who popularized it a long time ago, that a child is raised by a village, that you need a village to raise a child. Well, I think we all need a village, but I think women in midlife need a village to nourish and midwife and nurse and love them through one of the most complex periods of their life that is also invisible, yet completely visible to the person going through it, but invisible to the rest of the world. I don't think our world has caught up yet with how to really look after women in midlife. But you know me, I do digress. Let me just get to the letter. Hey, Coach Che, I love what you're sharing about midlife. I saw you give a workshop a few weeks ago, and I just have to tell you, I felt it. I heard things that I had never heard before about midlife, but I have to say, nothing is working for me. My doctor says my hormones are normal, but I don't feel normal. And I'm not talking about hot flashes. In fact, I haven't felt normal for a long time, maybe years. My kids, these beautiful babies that I sacrificed everything for, I gave up my career for them, I moved for them, and I know they didn't ask me to do those things. They didn't ask to come into the world. But I had no idea. I had no idea that they would become teenagers. And I'd heard about teenagers, and I had been a teenager. But there's something about the way teenagers treat their mothers. In 2024, I hear you, and also going through the change. I feel like the internet has broken kids, like it's ruined their teenagehood. And I feel like we're supposed to be responsible for everything that's happening to them. And I find it hard. Some days I cannot stand my husband. So then I think, the kids, my husband, like everything. So is it them or is it me? But the truth is, I think he kind of hates me too. We're both working, and we've actually talked about divorce. but neither of us are really interested in doing that. Doesn't make economic sense. And I don't even know who I really am right now. My mom has Alzheimer's and lives in a home, which I also feel guilty about, but I can't have her here because I just can't look after her. Girl, I'm treading water. One day I heard one of your meditations, and no offense, I fell asleep, and I wish I could do what you do, but frankly, I'm lost. But I do appreciate the fact that you put me to sleep. You're welcome. I know that a huge part of what I'm experiencing is about my hormones, but I can't rely on TikTok. I don't seem to be able to speak to my doctor, and like there is no help. Lisa, thank you for sharing your experience and so authentically. My heart goes out to you, and I appreciate that you fell asleep listening to my voice. I don't mind hearing that, and I'm just glad that you're getting some sleep, and that's really a huge part of midlife. I actually think that, you see, we are trained to think, or conditioned, not trained, we are conditioned to believe that optimal health looks a certain way. And it's really designed for people of a certain age. I would say under 35. Because there are a lot of things that start to change in us as we approach our mid-30s, late 30s, and definitely in our 40s and 50s. Although I have a friend, and I've mentioned her before to you guys, who says she experiences nothing. She doesn't, if she had menopause, it just happened and she missed it. So, you know what? Happy for her, but that's not the experience for all of us. Lisa, I want you to know that you're not alone. Let's break this down. And I'd like you to think about this from the perspective of, I know, I'm going to get esoteric here in a way, but I won't stay there for too long. I want you to look at it from a societal point of view, from a community point of view, and from an individual point of view. And as I was saying, I don't think we've been conditioned to actually care for bodies over 35. I think we're conditioned to think about living for a long time. I think we're conditioned to think about looking good and altering how we look, and that somehow how we look and looking good is a kind of example, or it shows that we feel good. And we know that that's not necessarily true. However, I don't think we're familiar enough in the culture in general about the evolution women go through as they go through perimenopause to menopause. And then most women are going to live 40% of their life in menopause. It's stunning that we don't really educate human beings, men and women, about menopause and perimenopause, which, by the way, perimenopause can last anywhere from 3 to 10 years. But for a second, I just want you to have that context that we are, even though we're talking a lot about menopause and perimenopause now, we're kind of uneducated about what happens to women in midlife. Then you match that with the society's desire to live longer, but they don't want anyone to look older. Then you match that with the pressure on women to look young, to stay young, and the way men and women are treated as they get older, but how women are really sort of made invisible as they get older. And if you don't believe me, look at the magazines, look at television, look at the news, look at where you see women and how often you see women over 40. And I know you're like, Shay, listen, I'm not sure that you're making me feel better. But I think it's important to give the societal framework. It's important to understand that this isn't just you. This is happening to women all over the world, in every economic category, from every educational background. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter, what language you speak. Many of us live in societies that don't love up women as they get older. And so what that means is that as we age, we have to love up ourselves, and we have to care for each other on a deeper, stronger level. Like, this is a time when our friendships really matter. During the last few years, I've lost some really incredibly significant people, which is a podcast on its own. But a couple of the people I lost were some of the best friends I've ever had, who are women. Gone with them are our secrets, our laughs, our jokes, our stories that only we could know and understand, our arguments, our learnings, our failures, all gone. And sometimes I reflect on that and think about the fact that at a time in our lives when we need our village is starting to disappear. I say that to you because I want you to also think, Lisa, about who's in your life. And if there is one person or two people or a few people that can reinforce their care and their nourishment of you, you need to spend more time with them. And if you can do that for them, they need to spend more time with you. This hormone issue, it's so massive because there's so much complexity to our hormones. I cannot speak today. To our hormones, but there's also so much misinformation, and I don't want to be part of misinformation. I just want you to understand that there are things happening to you because you are a complex biological system, and you have these extraordinary hormones surging through your body, and the changes that you are experiencing are natural, and you need to talk to someone about it. And what I would recommend the someone is, of course, your family doctor. And I think you need to make a list of your symptoms. And then you go to your family physician and you say, hey, I want you to take me seriously. And here are the things that I'm experiencing. These are not about lifestyle choices. These are events that I'm having every day that are impacting my sleep, my self-esteem, my sense of worthiness, my ability to manage my weight, maybe, my ability to think, my ability to do my job, my ability to be a parent and to be a partner. These are serious, serious experiences. When you talk to your doctor like that and you go in armed, not with an argument or a desire to fight, but armed with a list and information about yourself, they have to take you seriously. And then the next thing is to ask your physician for a recommendation to a health provider who specializes in women's health and hormonal balance and imbalance. And particularly someone, I know it sounds strange, but apparently not all doctors are trained in this, someone who is trained, familiar with perimenopause and menopause. And they may offer comprehensive testing and personalized treatment options. there are more physicians now specializing in this than before. So I think going and telling the truth and ringing that bell as much and as often as you can until the doctor pays attention is your first job. And I know you may feel like you don't have the energy to do it, but the first step, my darling, my love, is you must believe in yourself and become an advocate for you. That's the first step. Now, here's the other thing. The second thing is that you might be experiencing a sense of overwhelm. You may be feeling like your plate is full. Your address for emotional well-being, it's closed. And you may be struggling, again, partly because of hormones. I certainly can't say. Partly, the other piece is the amount of stress you're experiencing. Just in your note, the things that you shared, and I'm sure that that's not the whole story. You're struggling with your kids, you're struggling with your spouse, you're watching your mother deteriorate with Alzheimer's, and you are experiencing your own health events. If you feel like there are no friends or family that you can talk to about these things, this might be a really good time to seek a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a minister. You know, I think we really undervalue ministers in our society because we often think a minister or a religious advocate has a point of view that doesn't allow for deep listening, or we think that, religion is, maybe we have a negative idea about religion, and I don't know what your experience is with religion, but I think, even if you go to someone who's not of the same religious background or discipline as you, I don't know what your background is or whether you are a practitioner, but there are a lot of different types of therapists, and some who have a spiritual perspective, I think, are really helpful in midlife and often not as expensive as, a psychotherapist. But then there's so many different psychotherapists now. I spoke to someone last week, Natalie Haynes, a psychotherapist, a Gestalt psychotherapist. That is such an interesting therapeutic process. Value yourself enough to say, I am going to seek help, not because I am weak, not because I am fragile, and actually being fragile is not a terrible thing. There are times in our life when we feel fragile and vulnerable, but you are going to seek help because you need help. And the help is there. There's so many different kinds of psychotherapy that you could explore, and counseling. And then if spiritual guidance, psychotherapy, if those types of interventions are not something that you want to entertain, you might want to think of a coach. You might want to think about a self-improvement coach, or, there's so many coaches around that, think about someone that fits you, that has a language that speaks to you, a story that speaks to you, that can give you a sense of confidence as you go through this moment of really challenging experiences. I know that being in a marriage that is challenging, that is difficult, is not only emotionally painful, but it's painful in every way. This is the person who's key to the future, to your day-to-day life. And so I do like to suggest to some of my clients that when they're in midlife, that they take a step back, that they become or try to become mindful rather than jump to making decisions about their marriage. Couple counseling may be something that's worth pursuing. Again, talking to a spiritual educator, teacher, minister might be helpful. It might be helpful deciding not to talk about any problems with your partner for a little while and only focus on, can we get to know each other? Can we see if we still like each other? And the big piece is, do you feel safe enough to tell your partner what you're going through, how you're feeling, and how all of these changes are impacting you? Now, I'm not going to go into all of the things that you brought up because I actually would love to talk to you one-on-one, and maybe I can share some ideas for places or people you can reach out to. I'm happy to do that. But I just want you to know that you're not alone. And, for example, it's interesting that you say, you wonder if the internet has broken teens. I think the internet and technology has impacted all of us in some good ways and in some really profoundly negative ways. And I think it's important to remember with teenagers that they are still in process, that they are still becoming, and that this is actually a good time to mindfully step back from reacting to everything they may or may not be saying, or how they may be treating you in a dismissive way. Teens need us in ways that they don't even understand. And it's really important for them to just know that they are loved. And that doesn't mean that they should disrespect you. But the foundation of what you have, even though you're all going through changes, is love. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it's important to talk to teens about what's actually happening in your life. I think a lot of parents, a lot of mothers sort of suffer in silence because I think nobody in the family is going to understand. And I think something that's worth thinking about is saying, hey, you're going through lots of changes. I'm at a point in my life where I'm also going through lots of changes. And talk to them about what those changes are. Because I think what it does is it makes you real to them. And even if in the moment they don't have the bandwidth to understand, I think they're going to remember, especially the young girls, that their mother told them the truth about what she was experiencing. Right? Honestly, Lisa, and I know that's not your real name, there's so many things that you're going through here. And as you watch your kids pull away, and as you watch your mom maybe slipping away with the disease of Alzheimer's, it is natural to feel a kind of instability, like the ground underneath you is not safe. I want you to remember you are more resilient than you think. That even though this situation that you're going through right now, this complex situation is one that you've never faced before, you have a lot of experience that informs becoming a learner, becoming a listener for yourself, but also I want you to think about becoming a caregiver of yourself. And what does that mean? It means that you're going to have to get very educated about perimenopause and menopause. It means that you're going to have to set boundaries and say no and start to put yourself first. Even if that means that once a week you take yourself out on a trail, for dinner, for a walk, to a park, to a yoga class, to a meditation session, and you spend 2 hours resting, loving, talking to yourself from a place of kindness and justice and compassion. You see, caring for yourself should not be a luxury. It's a necessity. And as I said earlier, we actually require a village around us. We require the women who make soup and cook for us and look after us and love us. And I actually think when men and women start to really understand that we both need this in each other, we will start building better families and communities together, rather than being married or in a family and living so isolated in terms of our emotions. You see, midlife comes to all of us, hopefully, but part of what makes it harder is the level of stress so many of us are experiencing before there are hormonal changes. The thing is that so many of us have learned how to not care for ourselves, how to not prioritize our self-care. There's this idea that when you care for yourself deeply, deeply, that it's selfish, right? That the first thing you hear, I don't have time. I don't have time to do breathing exercises. I don't have time to go to meditation. And then, some of my coaching colleagues will say, you know what, just start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes of meditation, that's going to change your life. I'm not sure about that, and I am a meditation teacher. I think you need 60 minutes. I think you need 60 minutes at least a week. A day is even better, to really care and look after yourself, to pay attention, to slow down, to become an observer rather than a judger. And I think as you do that, as you start to have this input of space and silence and rest, I think what happens is a new sense of yourself starts to emerge. That you're not that woman who was a teenager and in her 20s and in her 30s pursuing education or pursuing a relationship or pursuing friendships or trying to build a family. I know you still have a family you're building, but you had a different kind of bandwidth. And in order to actually care for all of those things, and I know you've heard it before, you must start with yourself. It's critical to nurture yourself and allow the new purpose to emerge, to ask yourself questions like, who am I? What do I care about? What am I passionate about? And being okay with being multi-passionate, being okay with not having an exact answer. Because one of the things that also occurs in midlife, I just want to underline the earlier point about the larger society starting to make you invisible, is that you may be feeling challenged in your work, in your business, in how you're treated. You may be looking for a job. You may be reaching or stretching into a new position, and you might have your identity being challenged because you look different, because you sound different, because you don't fit into the clothes that you used to. Maybe. I'm not saying that all of these things are true. I'm just saying some of them could be happening, and they impact how you think and feel about yourself. It's not only the impetus of the hormones, it's the actual feedback from the society in which you are living. Is it reinforcing your care for yourself, your desire to be a person, to be seen as a whole person? And a really key piece of this pie that I think really goes undervalued, we focus on our physical bodies and what we look like, but we do not focus enough on the functionality of our body until something is wrong. I want to encourage you to move, to dance, to sing and use your voice in the bathroom, sing, and go for long walks, ride a bike, get outside, move your limbs around, use your body, Become aware of your physical body and strengthen your body. You know, during the pandemic, well, actually before the pandemic, I started to gain weight, and it was kind of like this perimenopausal weight. And in 4 years, I gained about 30 pounds, which was, I think, equivalent to what I gained and maybe more with my pregnancies. And I started to see that the things I had done to manage my weight did not work. Even exercising, you know, a lot of aerobic activity wasn't really great for me. A certain amount every day, yes. But being, you know, cardio focused actually made me gain weight. The game changer for me was strength training. The game changer for me was actually lifting heavy weights. And I think this is where a coach is also really essential. If you can find a coach or participate in a group that's doing weightlifting, my friend, wow, that transforms your whole body, because your muscles they feed your body with minerals and nutrients that we are constantly losing from the age of 35. So listen, I know I'm giving you a laundry list of things to think about, and I've got a letter that I'm going to write to you where I'm going to list these things, but I just want you to know you're not alone. You're not the only one this is happening to. And I want to encourage you to really reach out to your health practitioner and demand that they listen and put yourself first. This moment is a calling. It's an invitation. I think for so long we've thought about midlife incorrectly. We've thought about midlife as a crisis, and there are a lot of crises in midlife, but it's also a powerful opportunity for transformation and growth and the foundation for your future. Celebrate you. Celebrate the victories, the things that have gotten you to where you are, and don't isolate yourself. Live. Take deep breaths. Move. Swim. Jump. Run. Dance. But put yourself at the top of the list. And when you do even 3 of these things, I didn't even go into nutrition. Well, that's for another talk. When you do even 3 of these things, the experience of you will change. My friend, my sister, you've got this. And I am here cheering you on every step. You'll see a letter from me. I hope this is helpful. Let's stay connected. And my friends who are listening, I hope some of this was, if not all of it, useful to you. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's support each other. Let's build a community. Let's love each other up. Let's be the village that we need. And until next time, this is Coach Che reminding you that every phase of life, especially the challenging ones, holds a kind of gold mine for beautiful, magical transformation, for your potential to keep expanding. So let's keep talking, keep growing, and keep believing in ourselves. So much love for you. Ciao for now. My friends, thank you for joining me on Let's Talk, produced by Wise Mindly Inc. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take action, reflect, or embrace on a new way of thinking, on a new path. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you did, don't forget to subscribe, share, and even leave a review. Reviews matter. They allow us to do way more than we're doing now. Let's continue the journey of growth and well-being together. Until next time, I'm Coach Che Marville. Stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep talking.